Hi, my name's Angela Casey and welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors, the podcast that explores Edinburgh's green spaces and the people in them. I'm sitting in Montgomery Street Park today, which is quite a small park, and it's just off Easter Road. It's full of people chatting, and there's an active community group who are beginning to transform the park from a basic council space into something a bit more interesting. I'm going to meet Simon Preston, and we're going to find more about what goes on here. So welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors, Simon Preston.
It's a pleasure and honour to be here.
Oh, thank you. It's very nice to be here, and I'm enjoying these fruit trees, actually. They look like fruit trees.
We have loads of trees in the park, absolutely loads. Some of them enormous, I don't know how long they've been here, and some much more recent. They get replaced from time to time. There's one or two that the park friends have planted ourselves, the fruit trees particularly, and many that the council have planted them.
Nice decals.
Yes.
Tell me about your role and what it is that you do and how you got involved. Really.
Yes, OK. Well, we're actually the Friends of Montgomery Street Park, which no one ever seems to know, but I think we've been going for 20-something years.
Oh, I thought it was quite recent.
No, it's really been going a long time, but of course it goes in waves, new waves of volunteers come in, and suddenly it takes on a whole new lease of life, which actually we're thriving at the moment. We've recently had our AGM and have 15 committee members, which is our max, and I don't think we've had that for a very long time, so we're getting all sorts done. And, time passes and those people start to drift off and you wait for the next wave to come in. So there's nobody involved now who was involved 4 or 5 years ago, and I think to a degree we're reinventing the wheel over and over again, but that's okay, each...
I think that's all right.
Yeah.
That gives people a sense that they're doing something rather than just joining in something that's happened before and they slot in and...
Absolutely,
do what it is.
We're volunteers and we're all getting different things out of it, whatever that might be. Personally, I got involved probably 4 or 5 years ago, like many, because my child was using the park a lot. Mm-hmm. He would have been 8 or 9 then, so he was practically living here. So if I wanted to see him, I had to come down here, which meant that it kind of made sense to get involved. And I'm the kind of person that sees when something's wrong, you think, well, I'll just get involved and I can try and sort that out. At the time, our playpark was really ageing, and you'd come down every week and another bit had been taken away because it had become damaged or dangerous. So there was just some threadbare bits of half equipment left, and it was time to start asking the council about getting it replaced. So that was my main project when I got involved.
Yeah.
Well, I should say I started off as a regular member, but whenever the AGM comes round and the question's asked, will anybody step forward to take on one of the roles, and everyone kind of looks at their feet, well, eventually I had to put my hand up. So I became vice chair, I think, 2-3 years ago, and I've carried on in that role ever since.
I think I always say when going to those meetings, sit on your hands.
Yeah.
It's so tempting to see what people are doing and volunteer, isn't it?
I know, it's quite funny, really. I mean, I understand, just volunteering is a lot, but taking on a role is that much more, but somebody's got to do it. So I'm always scanning the horizon for who's going to take over from me.
Yeah. And how about the other committee members? Do they all live really close to the park?
Yeah. Well, they do, although I don't know where any of them live, to be honest with you. That's quite funny, isn't it?
That is quite funny.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also quite nice because they're from all different walks of life. We're just people who've all come together here, which is what makes it this special community space.
Yeah. And
we meet here for meetings and for volunteer sessions and for events and whatever, and then we toddle off back to our homes again, and I know which direction they walk in, but I don't know where they go.
Well, that's quite nice in a way, I think.
It is really nice because it brings you into contact with all sorts of folk you simply wouldn't come into contact with in your normal course of life, and that's the real pleasure of it.
And I think I can see what you're doing here already. I can see the benefits of it because you walk in and you think it's a council park, but actually you then begin to spot all these other different things that are going on. So
there's a lot going on.
Clearly, it's more than you think it's going to be. So when you come.
Yeah, it's a small park, so we don't have acres of space, but within the space we've got, there's a lot going on. Yeah. And of course, we're in one of the most densely populated parts of Edinburgh, if not Scotland, and a lot of people around here don't have gardens. So it's a really, really well-used space, an important green space for us.
Well, it's pretty busy on a weekday afternoon. I'm quite surprised at how many people are here.
All sorts of people come for all sorts of reasons. People come to exercise, a bit of Tai Chi goes on sometimes, a bit of yoga. Of course, the younger kids are here earlier on in the day during school times, and then when 3:15 comes along, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of children turn up and take over. Yeah, it's absolutely pumping with children for an hour or two, or longer.
Well, that's nice.
And then the sun comes out and you can barely see the grass. It's just full of people. Again, because people don't really have green spaces, or many don't, so this is the place to come. And the barbecues come out and the games come out and people play badminton and volleyball and all sorts here. It's a really heavily used space.
Yeah, it seems to be. And how about the volunteers? You have regular sessions, is that right? How many people come along?
It ranges between one, that'd be me. No, not just me actually. There's myself or Neil, who's one of the volunteers who runs the sessions, to up to 10 of us sometimes. Actually, once I started volunteering hands-on, I started to realise that I really, really liked it. And just coming and whatever the weather, just for an hour, getting your hands dirty, whatever it might be, doing some pruning or some weeding or planting something is probably the highlights, and scrubbing steps and picking up litters, the low lights. But, they're all pleasurable. And there's always time for coffee and biscuits too. We always make sure we squeeze that in. Yeah,
I saw that. You had a whole table of snacks and drinks laid out. Who does that?
Yes, well, our chair, Rachel, usually brings those along, bless her. She is a demon litter picker.
Right.
So alongside the volunteering sessions, which are mostly to do with planting and so on, she runs the monthly litter picks, which happen last Sunday of every month. My snack table is more modest, I'm honest. It is tea and biscuits, whereas hers, is something to behold.
I saw some pictures and I thought, wow, that's...
Well, it's important, isn't it? Because also, often we're busy and we think, we haven't got time to stop, but what's the point if we don't stop and talk to each other, that's when the conversations take place and when we find out what's important to park users who are different to us.
If you're going to volunteer, you've got to enjoy it, and a bit of social interaction for people is really important. Sometimes for people that gives them a sense of belonging and it gives them a sense of worth. And
totally. And for many people that's quite meeting strangers is quite something that's quite a worrying thing, or could create anxiety. So having something to do and a reason to be there, it makes that easier.
Yeah, I think volunteering is a good thing to do, but I think you have to do it right.
I'm not sure we have got it right yet, but as I say, we only really started this year, so we are learning as we go.
And so what have you been planting?
We plant bulbs a lot. So the council provides us with bulbs. There'll be an enormous amount coming up in the springtime. I mean, the park looks incredible. And you were asking me before about the friends who've gone before, and I see their legacy, which I really like, when I see the thousands of tulips and daffodils and the crocuses coming up. So we plant all the bulbs. We have our wildflower area, which we're sitting next to now.
Yeah, I was looking at this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a labour of love, our wildflower area. It started by the council. The council created a wildflower area there. So we then put a fence up to stop it being mowed over by mistake, which we've done. We leave it alone a lot, but we do plant some wildflower seedlings and seeds. Yeah. But it's a tough space, we're getting to know the soil. We found that our soil is very sandy, the reason being that because this was a bowling green up until about 25 years ago, it was a bowling green. And I'm told that sand is spread liberally on bowling green turf just to flatten it and to kind of keep it dry and so on and so forth. So the soil is hugely sandy. But also, we're told in the area we're sitting now, we're told that the old glassworks that used to be just on the opposite side of Easter Road to where we are now, when that was bulldozed to make way for housing, they dumped a load of ground glass here. Oh. So there's a lot of ground glass in the soil. Right. Which, actually for wildflowers is no bad thing, because wildflowers thrive where soil quality is very poor. Yeah. Something we need to explain to our community quite frequently is that they're not necessarily showy, they're not necessarily poppies and cornflowers, and, they can be tiny things, that actually you have to sort of approach and crouch down and get quite sort of deeply into the grass. And there's an area behind our fenced-in area over there that I'm pointing to that we haven't particularly done anything to, but because it's sort of harder for the council to get their mowers to, they've left it, and it's developed as wildflowers in a different way, with more thistles and taller growing plants. You see there's actually all sorts of stuff in there. You can just walk through the park and see very little, and it's only when you stop and really focus your eyes you see there's so many different things growing. We have a wildlife expert actually who writes books about wildlife, who lives on Montgomery Street. He wrote an article for us about the wildlife in the park that he sees from his window, and it was astonishing the number of different things, the number of different birds particularly that come here. Some really quite rare, some that actually you'd be surprised to see in Edinburgh at all, that you've seen in the park.
I noticed as I was coming in something that said that people could hang their bird feeders up here?
We do have some bird feeders, yeah.
So people come and put them in, do they?
We do, yeah. They sort of come and go, really. I don't know where they go, but they definitely come. We have some apple trees here as well, as you see next to it.
Oh, yeah, these are doing well.
Which are absolutely covered. This whole area was planted as an orchard, again by the Friends, before I was involved. And now they've grown in this really lovely twisted way and formed an archway over the entrance to our wildflower area.
And you've never thought about turning a bit into produce
we
or
think
anything?
We think of all sorts, Angela, but it's just, it goes on the list. I really hope that as our volunteering sessions grow and people come along and say, well, this is what I'd like to do, I'd really like someone to say, well, I'd really like a veg area, I'm going to get on and do it, because it needs someone to take that on as a project.
Yeah. So when I came in the gate, I noticed about Parklife.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about what Parklife is.
We're so proud of Parklife. I think we're the only park in Edinburgh, maybe Scotland, that produces its own beautiful park magazine. It started when a local resident approached us. He'd recently had a baby and said, listen, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the park. I'm a journalist. Can I help you write a newsletter?
Wow.
And out of that conversation, we were like, well, a newsletter's great. We thought, wouldn't it be nice to have something that tells people who are coming to the park a little bit about who we are as a community, about the park, about the businesses and the people who live around the park, and that says to people, this is Montgomery Street Park, this is Hillside, and it has its own personality. So we started off developing ideas along those lines, and lo and behold, here we are 18 months later. We put a call out to our local community asking for editors, designers, illustrators, writers, sort of anticipating that we'd get enthusiastic amateurs. We just got professionals who knew there were so many creative people lived in these streets around here who said, I write for this publication, or I'm a professional artist, but I'd love to contribute something. And before we knew it, we had a dozen people who were more than willing to put all their fabulous expertise in.
Oh, fantastic.
We then produced our first issue with some money that we had in the bank from previous events, printing it out of the blueprint down on Dalmeny Street, which is a social enterprise that prints using rhizo printing, using recycled paper and natural inks from rice. And it came out and we were just so proud of it.
What you've done is something that's more than just an update about the park, isn't it? You've just pulled a whole lot of community together, found people's talents, found things that people can do together, and the outcome is so positive. That's a really positive thing.
It's wonderful, and the stories that we printed were, as I say, about the personality of the area, really, and just lovely little anecdotes of people talking about why they live here, why they come here, where the park came from, and then how it ended up being turned into a park. All sorts of historical stuff was dug up for it.
So you've done one edition of Parklife. What happens next?
We have. Well, it's like a difficult second album, isn't it? But it's not difficult in the writing, for sure. We've got so much we want to say, and we've got so many illustrators wanting to contribute now, which is fabulous. The first one was such a beautiful publication. People were framing it and putting it on their wall. So content is a problem, but we have to pay for it. And so we launched a crowdfunder to pay for our second and hopefully third issue, and that's been really successful. So our second issue is fully funded and will be out very shortly, and we're already working on issue 3. And we'd like to become a template in many ways. We think what we've achieved with the magazine has been really important for building our community, to make people feel more connected to the park. One of the big stories in our first edition was just the history of the park, because many people don't know that this was originally bowling greens, 2 bowling greens and the clubhouse. And the playpark itself had been there for much longer, so I think the 30s or 40s, perhaps even older than that.
So they were where we're sitting now looking at.
Exactly, and I don't know if you can see there's a slight dip in between, and that's where the divide between the 2 bowling greens were. The council have been and filled the dip many times, but it just dips again. But when the bowling greens closed, which was in the late 90s, it reverted to the council, and the council were minded at that point to look at selling the land. But there was a big community call for the green space to be retained. Lots of people spoke up and said, no, this is a very, very important green space. So it was all down to local people that this became a park at all, and the fence between the play park and the green space was taken down. The bowling green building went, and the whole thing became one big play park. We can turn the park into what we want it to be, what the community wants it to be. Len, come and sit.
I'm Lynn, how are you doing?
Have a
Lynn,
seat.
volunteer, committee member, local
Very
resident.
recent.
Fairly recent.
So Lynn's come and joined us on the bench. He was walking past. And you're a volunteer, Lynn, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, and just a recent member of the committee as well. So yeah, I just started volunteering, I think it was December last year actually. They were planting some hedges just over that way, so I thought it would be a nice thing to help out with. And then I bumped into the guys. They were just trying to find a space for the new Parklife magazine as well, so I just got chatting to them. So I think that was the way in, really.
Lynn, because you were coming towards us. I remember we sort of said, oh, would you get involved? You kept coming towards us. You didn't start backing away again, as some people do.
And then you went to the meeting and didn't sit on your hands. So now you're in.
Yeah, I think but I'm happy to be. Yeah, absolutely happy to be. Do what I can when I can.
I was saying early on that although it is a small park, it's a really good example of a community organisation that's working.
Yeah. I think it's just been really lovely to get to know people a little bit more, and then we just have a little tea and a coffee after and just have a chat. So, and then it's funny, once you start sort of recognising some faces, now I find I see people everywhere, even of the committee, I've seen them around town. So it's actually start to feel like, yeah, you're getting to know people in your neighbourhood as well.
That's quite
really
nice.
Yeah.
And where do you live? Are you live nearby?
I'm literally on Montgomery Street. I'm
Right.
literally a few minutes. Yeah.
Right.
Just along there. So it's so
Okay.
near. I think that's the convenience of being able to volunteer when it's just
Yeah.
on your doorstep is so handy as well.
We get more feedback now from our local community saying, "Park just looks great these days." We're obviously neighbouring to Abbey Hill, the next little community along, and the Abbey Hill colonies there have their annual Colony of Artists Festival.
Oh, yes.
So it was actually a collaboration with them to get our murals done. And some graffiti artists came and sprayed the two walls we have with these fabulous murals. They've been there for several years now. And
Yeah.
what I love is the taggers, the graffiti people who come and just tag things. But go anywhere near them, you know.
There's a code.
There's that code. You
Yeah.
don't spray over someone's artwork.
So the play park, I mean, it's buzzing today.
The play park was entirely replaced only 2 years ago. We ended up with a play park which is really distinctive. It's very much natural materials. There's lots of wood, again, which you don't see a lot of in Edinburgh, and lots of things that are about creative play. So that was something that we've been very proud of. We did fight very hard to keep one piece of our old play park, which was our Helter Skelter, which was something that was almost the icon of our part of the city. Everyone would have said, oh, that's the place with the big Helter Skelter. It was enormous, and it was a rite of passage for all the kids to go down it. And yes, people were injured on it, but, you know, it was all that part of risk-taking behaviour and learning, you know, to measure risk and so on. And having surveyed parents in the area, the overwhelming response was, we want to keep it, we definitely want to keep it. So we tried, the council had said at that stage, it's got to go, it's not safe. We worked very hard and we raised money to try to save it, but in the end we were defeated and had to accept that it had to go. We did then manage to persuade the council to store it for a year while we figured out what to do with it, because it was so loved by our community, we couldn't bear the thought it was just going to go on a scrap heap. So it was stored at the council depot for a year under tarpaulins, while we tried to find a museum perhaps that would take it, where it could be played with in a more supervised environment where it would be safer. Couldn't find anyone. So in the end we found an artist who would take it, who took it and cut it up and made it into artworks. It's now in about 40 separate pieces, all turned into wall-hanging artworks by an artist called Paul. It's currently on display in Glasgow.
I will put links on the blurb for the podcast so that people can go and see that. That's really
brilliant.
Fantastic.
And so the Helter Skelter lives on in the new guise, and we've also been talking with the council about obtaining one of those artworks to install back in the park. The Helter Skelter will return in some form. And then the final piece of the puzzle is where the Helter Skelter was. There's nothing at the moment here. So we have one more piece of equipment to find to complete our play park, and that's one of our projects just now.
So, Lynn, thinking about the volunteering that you've now agreed to do, what have you been doing? What have you been enjoying about it?
Yeah, well, I first started planting some tree saplings actually just along there. Another thing I found really satisfying is actually just weeding the steps along there. They grow so much, but when you do clear all the steps, you stand back and you could really see the result. It's really satisfying. Because I'm so near, I do help water the planters because they might dry out a little bit. I think there's a bit to be done maybe over in the wildflower meadow. I'd like to get more involved in that once we have more plans for that. And it's nice to have something to do as well, and I just quite like being able to be outside with a purpose and doing something productive and useful for a longer period of time. And then just getting to know a few people locally has felt really good as well. You feel more part of your community. And I think there's almost a sense of psychological safety in that once you get to know people around you, part of your community. So yeah, it helps with isolation. It's been
gives you a bit of belonging, doesn't it? I think I think that's one of the things a lot of people say about volunteering in a community space, is that you suddenly begin to realise where you fit into it.
I think exactly. I think I started to reflect early in the year. I thought maybe had a bit of a need to connect a little bit more, and then I thought I would link that with a value of mine, which was preserving green spaces and nature connection, and actually just combining the two has been really impactful. I think being able to do something that's really important to you, but also spend time with other people and get to know your community.
Because you found the outdoors has helped you, have you?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
I'm a psychological therapist, my background, and then recently been trained in ecotherapy. I don't know if you know much about it.
No, I like the sound of this.
Yeah,
sounds like another
your street
episode for a podcast.
From the sound of your podcast, absolutely. So, I work in student mental health at the moment, and we're recently introduced ecotherapy, which is essentially nature connection therapy in supporting the people we work with. I think I've always loved nature, but now really learning more about how you can engage with nature and interact with nature in a way that really enhances your well-being and your psychological well-being as well. And I'm thinking down the line for the park, I could hold some kind of nature connection experience and event here to help people realise how you can really maximise the benefits of being in nature. A lot of it is about just slowing down and really immersing yourself and really noticing everything. Actually, when I was litter picking just there a few days ago, I really realised I haven't walked through this park slowly. And when you're looking for litter, it does make you slow down and look at everything. And I just started to notice everything, like the apple trees. I started to notice things I hadn't seen before. So I think that's the power of the elements and greenery that allows, I think, more flexible thinking or even problem-solving thinking or openness. So certainly any students I've been out with, I just find they're a lot more open when you go outside with them. Maybe there's something a bit less threatening, because sometimes there might be a power imbalance between the therapist and the patient or the client, and it almost feels more egalitarian, or just you go outside, you're just equal, you're kind of walking alongside each other. So there's something quite freeing and liberating. I mean, it's probably the main thing I do for my well-being. Even sunlight's going to enhance your mood, even being by the sea, the meditative quality of the sea as well, things like it all has science behind how that helps our physiology.
I was telling Simon I went up Calton Hill with a woman who runs bird watching groups for 18 to 35s, and what she was saying was that it's also been proved that listening to bird song has a positive effect.
And there's actually a science behind that as well, because when birds sing, they feel safe. So when you're in a space of birds singing, you also feel safe, because they sing when there's no predators around.
Yeah. It does make sense.
Yeah.
You feel good when you're with friends, and you feel good when you're eating some food you love or listening to some music you love. And we accept those as being very tangible and normal things.
Yeah.
And it's only when I come and volunteer in the park and do something, get my hands dirty or whatever I'm doing, it feels so good. Why do I feel so good? I can't put my finger on it. And I think because you just don't feel that coming to the park and volunteering should make you feel that way, but it just does. I think we don't seem to have learned that in the same way we've learned that other things make us feel good, that being in nature makes us feel good.
It's just so multifaceted, and even volunteering in nature, because I was thinking as well, when I've come away from some of the volunteer sessions, I feel better about myself. I like myself more. And I'm thinking, because I'm doing something that is giving back to nature, that's spending time with other people. It's a self-esteem thing as well. I just like who I am when I'm volunteering in nature, I think what drew me to the volunteering here was the flexibility of it, and it's just kind of join when you can. We'd really appreciate, so I know in other volunteering opportunities you have to agree to a certain amount of hours, certain days, and I love that, because sometimes I am busy at the weekend, but I love being able to come when I can. So it actually encourages me to come more when there's flexibility with it. It works for me.
Yeah. Sounds great. I've been talking to voluntary groups and people who do gardening together and all that kind of thing. But actually what you've been talking about, that I like it.
Because it goes deeper, doesn't it? Because sometimes I think, when people think of ecotherapy, they just think of doing activities in nature. But actually, it's a lot more than that. Ecotherapy and really connecting with nature is a much deeper psychological experience. And And when you do it, you can really learn to heal and recover and just grow really as an individual.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Watch this space. Ecotherapy workshops at Montgomery Street Park coming soon.
Well, I've said it now, exactly.
Now Lynn's joined us. You both get to answer the questions at the end. So I'll ask you first, Simon. So Simon, what does the outdoors mean for you?
Well, like many people, I work from home, so it's something that you have to be very mindful of getting up and doing. It's so easy to just hardly leave the house at all. And sometimes when I'm thinking I need to go outside, I can't be bothered. But I have to remind myself that every time I do, I absolutely love it, and I always come back feeling fantastic. So the outdoors is just an escape, it's a refresh, it's a reset, it's a recharge.
Yeah. And what about you, Lynn? We've sort of talked about this, but tell me again anyway. Go on, because I'm enjoying hearing you talk.
Same kind of thing. But yeah, no, just like you said, it is a way for me, or a place to look after your well-being. And I find when I'm outside, nature particularly makes me experience a lot of positive emotion, like joy, awe. I appreciate the beauty. I get really blown away by the beauty in nature, so that's all good for me, you know. I also love exploring in nature. I suppose that's something, because I grew up in Southern Ireland in the country and remember going exploring with my mates. And I love a good view as well, so yeah, I like to get.
Yeah, I like a view too.
And that's why we're really lucky in Edinburgh.
And Lynn, has there ever been a time when the outdoors has really helped you?
Do you know, when I try to think of individual isolated times, I don't think I can, because I feel like it's always there, always helped me. It's always been part of my life. I think if I'm thinking specifically, maybe times in bereavement in my life, maybe in family bereavement, where I felt there's some healing in nature, but also actually it started to give me reasons for living again, or reasons for wanting to feel like I can still find some joy in life, because I have a special connection to it. So yeah, I think in recovery for maybe grief, bereavement, but also it's always been there, and I hope it always will be for me.
And I've talked with other people about this. One of the reasons it helps with bereavement is because of the cyclical nature, because we live in a country where we've got seasons, and so you know that there's this regeneration and that recovery and things will come back, and that helps with the grief cycle, I think. And what about you, Simon? Has there ever been a time when the outdoors has helped you?
Well, I don't want to sound disloyal to our own park here, but of course Calton Hill is only 5 minutes walk away, and that's my go-to place actually when I need outdoors help, and always has been. I've lived in Edinburgh 25 years now, and I can think of, maybe 4 or 5 times over those years where I've been in a pretty bad way for some reason or other, where I've just walked out the door and straight up there and found it's quite easy on Calton Hill to find a little remote spot, surprisingly. Yeah. Despite the numbers of tourists go there, you can find a little corner where there's nobody, and just be by yourself and be able to see into the distance and have time with yourself, So that's definitely my go-to spot when I need some bit of outdoor therapy.
The views, I think, are incredible up there, and it has a trick point. So it's in the middle, right in the middle of the city, but it has a slight sense of wildness about it. I think it's really good.
Edinburgh Hills, isn't it?
Yeah.
The views are stunning, all 360. Yeah. You see Arthur's Seat, but then you see the sea, and then you see the beautiful old Edinburgh architecture.
Yeah. Just the biggest payback ever, isn't it? For a very tiny amount of effort, you get this. Wow.
Yes.
I think it does. The third question I ask is about your favourite space in Edinburgh. So is that your favourite space in Edinburgh?
Calton Hill is my favourite space in Edinburgh. So much so that when I got married 11 years ago, Calton Hill was the only option. So I actually got married on Calton Hill.
You got married on Calton Hill?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And was it dry?
It was, actually. We did one of those mini rehearsal things the day before. It wasn't very serious, but it was a bit of rehearsal. And the Har blew in, and it was in September. Oh, it was bitter. It was like 2 degrees.
Yeah.
Couldn't see a thing. We thought, oh my Lord, this is going to be a disaster. But then that didn't happen the next day, and it was one of those autumn hazy days where Edinburgh looks like kind of cut out cardboard layer after layer with the haziness around it. It was absolutely stunning.
Lovely.
So very fortunate.
What a great place to get married. That is fantastic. What about you, Lynn? Have you got a favourite space?
Do you know, I love Calton Hill, I have to say as well. Love it there. I actually love what is really near here, London Road Gardens. It's just literally across the road, and it's a long kind of linear strip, but it's beautiful. There's really big mature trees, so much nature there. You can also go up a level where you get some views a bit across the city. So I love London Road Gardens, and actually I remember when during COVID I was so lucky to be able to use London Road Gardens to still be able to go out and get some nature. And another place I'm loving exploring at the moment, because I work over the other side of the city, Craiglockhart direction. You know, the nature reserve there. There's also lovely woodland, and we take our students out there for ecotherapy. And I was just out walking there with a colleague yesterday. It was a beautiful sunny day, and it's a reasonably busy suburb, and they're quite busy nature reserve and a busy woodland, but we saw 2 deer. We felt like we were up in the Highlands. We just saw 2 deer go past it through the trees. We just got so excited.
She chose 3 spaces. Is she allowed to do that?
Yeah,
Sorry,
you choose what you want.
I know. It's hard.
Don't worry, somebody who shall
we?
be nameless chose 10. Well, thank you very much. It's been really great to meet you, and I've really enjoyed that we've walked round the park and we've looked at all the things that you've been doing and the wild bits and things, and then we've ended up having that fantastic conversation.
It's been great.
So that's been really good, so thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
Yeah, even talking about it.
It's been good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that podcast. I liked talking to Lynn and to Simon, and it was interesting how we got into such a long chat sitting in the park in the middle of a really built up area in Edinburgh. I think Montgomery Street Park is interesting because it's a wonderful example of how some volunteers can work together and improve something. And I think also the Parklife magazine, which you can pick up at the entrance to the park. So it's worth it one day. Go down there, spend 5-10 minutes walking around, look at the park, enjoy the wildlife spaces, the fruit trees, and pick up a copy of Parklife and see what a great piece of collaborative work it is. And I can well understand why they said that some people had framed them, because it's beautifully illustrated. And yeah, it's a good place to visit. And as always, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please go online, rate and review it, and don't forget to tell others about it too. And if you know of an outdoor space in or around Edinburgh that might like to be featured, please get in touch.